Coming up next on Newton Newsmakers, a special year-end review. Jenn Adams from Newton News, Gail Spector from the Tab, Leslie Anderson from the Globe, and Dan Ray from WBZ, News Radio 1030. Who and what topped the news in Newton during 2010? You'll find out next on Newton Newsmakers.
Newton Newsmakers is made possible through the volunteer production efforts of the employees of mass media and big city publishing, and through the support of Newton residents like you.
Hi everybody, welcome to Newton Newsmakers. I'm Charlie Shapiro, and joining us for our year-end review is an impressive group of journalists, all of whom are well-versed in just about everything that makes Newton Newton. Jenn Adams from Newton News. She's the producer, she's the anchor, and it was fun doing the news with you.
That's right, you were my former co-anchor.
Exactly,
yes.
And that's the show that's seen throughout the city. Gail Spector, editor of the Newton Tab, is also here. It's the weekly paper of record for the city of Newton. We're also joined by Leslie Anderson, editor of the Globe West, the Boston Globe's edition that covers the western suburbs, and our friend Dan Ray, producer and host of Nightside with Dan Ray. That's heard weeknights on WBZ, News Radio 1030. Dan also happens to be a Newton resident. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. I'm genuinely honored to have you all here. It was quite the year. We started off with a brand new administration, a new mayor taking over after David Cohen's being in office for 12 years. There were a lot of high expectations. Ahead of the program, I asked each of you to send over, email over your top news stories, your top events of the year. And so rather than do a Letterman top 10, I've categorized them. And the first thing I'd like to talk about, and if we start off with Jenn, is new leadership in the city of Newton. Starting off with, as I mentioned, the new mayor, 5 new aldermen, 3 new school committee members, a new school superintendent. This has been quite a challenging and changing year. So Jenn, what do you make of this so far?
Well, with a new mayor, Mayor Seti Warren, I think he's done exactly what he said he was going to do, at least for the first half of, I should say the second half of the fiscal year. He said he wasn't going to ask for override for this particular fiscal year, and he didn't. He also said for the second, for his second time doing the budget, he was going to do zero-based budgeting, which he is now in the process of doing, line by line detailing. So he's pretty much stuck to his word in regards to at least what he said during his campaign trail. That's what I get from him.
Okay, Gail, so the tab obviously covers things, at least the Newton tab obviously covers things exclusively in Newton. As the editor there, I know for a fact that you followed the campaign very, very closely with Seti Warren among the other candidates as well. One of the #1 things that he talked about was changing of the tone in the city of Newton. Was he successful of that in that endeavor?
I think he was. One of the things that Mayor Warren has really shown to be himself to be different at is communications. He's excellent at communicating with the city, with the press, certainly, and I think that has made a very big difference. He reaches out to people. He's held a round of what he's calling town hall meetings. He's done this twice, where he goes to each ward and invites residents to come, and he talks to them about what the challenges are in the city, and it's very different from the previous administration. And I think slowly the tone in the city is changing. He talks to the tab, which is very different from the previous administration.
Shocking to want to communicate with the media.
My job's entirely different.
Leslie Anderson, you're with the Boston Globe, among other things. Your town /Newton is the web address that I think of.
Yep.
So are you seeing the similar type of thing that Gail has been talking about, or has it been a different experience for you?
No, we are seeing the same thing. He is quite accessible, answers questions. I think it's important that he's established this good communications record, because I think things are going to get more difficult as his term progresses. You know, no one's figured out yet how to fix the schools, the remaining schools besides Newton North. There's a lot of expensive things coming up, but I think he's, gotten people talking in a civil way.
Okay, Dan Ray with WBZ, and on your program you talk about a lot of things related to politics.
Sure.
You're a Newton resident, so
Yes,
you
I
have
am.
a stake in this personally. It's not just as a job type of thing, and other folks here live in Newton as well. But tell me a little bit about what your sense is of what was promised and what's being delivered from a substantive point of view.
Well, from my perspective, I've had Mayor Warren on as a guest shortly after he was elected. Seems like a really terrific guy. On a personal sense, as a resident of Newton, my trash is finally being picked up regularly. And I know that might seem to be not very important to other people, but it is very important to any resident of a city to have city services provided. And I live on a side street, and I would say that during the first 3 years that we lived here, during the former administration, it was an effort every Wednesday, not every Wednesday, but too many Wednesdays to get my trash picked up. Once Mayor Warren arrived, the first day there was a problem, I called, was responded to, and the problem hasn't reoccurred. And it seems to me that if that is any indication, he not only is a fixer of problems, but he wants to fix the problem and not have the problem come back again 3 or 4 weeks later.
So from a trash perspective...
From a trash perspective, I am very happy, very happy.
All right, one for the trash, one for the trash. Let me go back to Jenn Adams for a second. Huge sweeping changes in the structure of City Hall. A lot of department heads changed, a different way of approaching things. Mayor Cohen had been accused of micromanaging in some ways. Seti Warren, as mayor, has now hired a team of people that surround him. What has that meant for the city of Newton?
Well, I think, for instance, Bob Rooney coming back to the city has helped immensely. I mean, he was here previously and then left to work for the governor, and now coming back, he just knows the city inside and out. And now you can call him up and get an answer very quickly. So he's very responsive, as more so, I think, than Seti, the mayor, because he's there, as unlike the mayor who's going out and visiting with either the neighborhood or actually going to a site, for instance, with the floods, going out and about, but Bob Rooney is there. He's also hired, as you mentioned, a team that just is focused on their particular area and has hired and is now managing their areas to the T, and I think right now they're really fine-tuning that for this upcoming budget that's going to happen.
Okay,
but
so Gail, as you know, number 3 best place to live in America is what we've been ranked. I'm not sure who number 1 and number 2 is, but I'm sure they're local.
Chelsea and Everett, I believe.
Yeah, Sure. So the city seems to be relatively safe, but this was a year. Many stories in the tab and some in the Globe as well, but predominantly in the tab for this type of story. There were a lot of things that were talked about as far as safety. We had 2 students charged with murder. We had bike deaths, scooter accidents, car accidents. I mean, there were some negative things that happened this year. And is that just because we're a city of 84,000, or do you think there are things that we can do from a safety perspective that that we're not doing?
I'm not sure. We've looked at that. We've tried to look at the statistics to see if there's anything that we, as a city, are not doing. We've looked at what's causing the accidents. We've talked to the police about this. I'm not really sure what's going on. We've looked at whether there are more scooters on the road, and we couldn't find a pattern. So I'm not really sure what it is. Whether people are driving more, driving faster, whether there are more cars, So I'm really not sure what the answer to that is. But this year was really disturbing with all the fatalities. To have a Newton North student who was killed in a traffic accident, right near his home. I mean, that was really tragic. Adam London. So.
One of the concerns I have, not for Newton, but for everywhere, it seems like bike lanes are popping up everywhere, and I know that there's a real push by the bike lobby to make accessibility for bicycle riders easier. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to cause more problems. And we discussed that issue on Nightside a lot. And it is a problem that I think is going to hit Newton. It's also going to hit other communities. I'm not suggesting that the accidents that have occurred this year are a consequence of that. But when you take 10 feet of roadways
that aren't big enough to begin with.
It's wonderful, and it sounds great environmentally and green and all of that, but Boston is never going to be Beijing, China.